Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We can do the next two together. Narayanam namaskritya naram jaiva narottamam devam saraswatam vyasam tato jayamudiraye nastabaya supatreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavate uttama shloke bhakti bhagavati naishtiki. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer the respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayana Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. I'd also like to offer my respectful obeisances to His Divine Grace, Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and his sincere followers, by whose grace we have access to this transcendental wisdom. By regular attendance on classes on the Srimad Bhagavatam, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as a reputable fact. All right. So today we are reading from the 10th canto, chapter 84, texts 65 through 66. So I'll read the translation for 65, Sanskrit for 66, and then translation and purport on. Text 65. Sri Shukadev Goswami said, his heart softened by feelings of intimate sympathy. Vasudev wept. His heart softened by feelings of intimate sympathy. Vasudev wept. His eyes brimmed with tears as he remembered the friendship Nanda had shown him. So just to recap, we are at the scene where the residents of Vrindavan and residents from many other places are coming to meet at the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And now we are in a scene between Nanda Maharaj and Vasudeva, both Krishna's parents, or fathers. Text 66. Nandastu Sakya Priya Krit Premna Govinda Ramayo Adya Swayiti Masam Spin Yadu Bir Manito Vasat. Word for word translation. Nanda, to and Sakya to his friend. Priya, affection. Krit, who showed. Premna, out of his love. Govinda Ramayo, for Krishna and Balaram. Adya, I will go later. Today. Swa, I will go tomorrow. Iti, thus, saying, Masan, months. Trin, 3. Yaduvi, by the Yadus. Manita, honored. Avasat, he remains. Translation. And on his part, Nanda, who also full of affection for his friend Vasudeva, thus during the following days, and on his part, Nanda was also full of affection for his friend Vasudeva. Thus, during the following days, Nanda would repeatedly announce, I will be leaving later today, and I will be leaving tomorrow. But out of love for Krishna and Balaram, he remained there for 3 more months, honored by all the others. Purport. After settling that he would leave first thing in the morning, Nanda would then decide, I'll go later today. And then when the afternoon came, he would say, I'll just stay until tomorrow. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti suggests One possible reason for his procrastination. Nanda secretly intended to bring Krishna back with him to Vraj, but did not want to break Vasudev's heart. Thus, his indecision continued for 3 months. All right, I'll offer prayers, and then we can continue. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Sukaya Chakshurmilitanena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sakritam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karanmayam Dadanti Swapadantikam Om Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajata Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvitam Sadhutam Virjina Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Shra He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanshakapatirubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Shivaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Vicharini Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paschatya Desha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so reading from the translation one more time. And on his part, Nanda was also full of affection for his friend Vasudeva. Thus, during the following days, Nanda would repeatedly announce, I will leave later today, and I will leave tomorrow. But out of love for Krishna and Balaram, he remained there for 3 more months, honored by all the others. So I'd like to start today's class, which will be around the topic of friendship. I'd like to start today's class with a story from Srila Prabhupada. I'll have to try to recall some of the finer details, so I might speak verbatim. Or sorry, not verbatim. What's the word? In generalization. There is one story that was told by His Holiness Radhanath Swami. Good timing, because he'll be with us very soon. Of when he was in Vrindavan before formally meeting the devotees, let's say. And Srila Prabhupada had visited Vrindavan with the devotees. There was one friend of Srila Prabhupada who wanted to come and see him. The devotees didn't know that there was a relationship between him and Srila Prabhupada, and so they told this, Viva Babaji told him, sorry, Prabhupada's very busy, we can't see him. And something to the effect that Radhanath Swami expressed, this is someone who's very dear to Srila Prabhupada. Please just let Prabhupada know that such and such is here to see them, and then Prabhupada can decide. As soon as Prabhupada came to know, like, oh, this is who it is who's come to see me, he said, yes, please send him in immediately. And so like this, the devotees came running back and brought Srila Prabhupada's friend in to see him. And Prabhupada was, meeting with so many people in the room, But as soon as he saw his friend of Vrindavan, they both sprung up. It was almost like Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda meeting each other for the first time. They sprung up in such overwhelming joy and happiness to see each other. They embraced, and it was as if the rest of the world disappeared. All the conversations he was having with different people, all of it stopped, and it was just this intimate catching up, this intimate sharing between Srila Prabhupada and his dear Vrajavasi friends. And it was told by His Holiness Rana Swami that he was just marveling. They were speaking in Bengali, so he didn't know what words they were saying, but he could just feel the love and the affection that was being shared between the two of them. And every other moment they were laughing and joking, and the Prabhupada they were seated both on the Vyasa together on the chair, and they were just intimately associating with each other. And another key note that Maharaj mentioned in this memory was that basically every other sentence or word was followed with Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So they would be communing in this loving and affectionate way with deep friendship centered around Krishna. And Maharaj stated that it was at that moment that he understood what Krishna consciousness looked like. By the example of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So that story being an introduction, we can go into one of the problems that we see in this world. In the Shastras, we hear how so much emphasis on the danger of temporary relationships. Temporary relationships. We may be familiar with the Srimad Bhagavatam verse about straws floating in a river, destined to be separated by time. And that those attachments to temporary relationships will ultimately be the cause of another birth in the material world. Mm-hmm. So we find a big problem here that we are by nature pleasure-seeking. We by nature develop loving relationships. But as Mother Amita was mentioning, there are relationships that help us move forward, and there are relationships or attachments that bind us to the material world. Mm. And so one of the difficulties we see in this world is that relationships that are materially centered, they can change on a dime. Mm. A friendship that could have been cultivated for many, many years, even blood relations can be cut at a drop of a dime. We see this example in the Srimad Bhagavatam with King Kamsa, who as soon as his interests were challenged, he was ready to pull out his sword and kill his own sister. His own sister, who he had arranged an elaborate marriage ceremony, was being the personal charioteer. As soon as his own interest was challenged, he was ready to sever that relationship. And we see so many practical examples in this world how friendships from childhood, it could be broken because our interests have changed. And what is the reason for this? The reason for these relationships is that it's materially centered around temporary conceptions of self. We are friends because we are of the same race. We are friends because we're from the same country. We are friends because we like the same TV show or game or sport or team or whatever it may be. We are friends only because of these things. And as soon as that temporary thing loses its existence, loses its tangible reality, then so too does the relationship go. And we may even look in our own lives how many of the relationships for me, I'm just thinking, so how many so-called friendships or material friendships, I cultivated in my freshman year of college. How many people We came to know, and we were hanging out, like, oh yeah, we're gonna be best friends forever. But by the next semester, you just aren't talking to each other anymore. And other things are more important. We have other work, we have other things, and many years later, we're not in relation. What to speak about when conflict comes up, and when my relative happiness has to be put on hold or checked, or is threatened by the relationship. Oh, you said something that I didn't like, or you did something that I didn't like, or I won't be able to enjoy as greatly um, if I maintain this relationship. So many reasons for these relationships breaking off. Now, one may ask, though, we don't want to reject all relationships. We don't want to become impersonal. Just thinking I have no relationships, no one in this world matters. All that is important is me and my spiritual life. One step, okay, that could be, if it's really centered around the divine, that could be a forward motion from one perspective. But as we hear from the Shastra, it's the nature of the soul to have loving relationships. Now, the material relationships bind us, but the solution isn't to negate all relationships and go into impersonalism or voidism. The goal of merging into the Brahman is just so that everything is peaceful. There's no difficulty from challenging relationships, no heartbreak. But still, that's not fully satisfying to the soul. There's Sat, it'll be eternal, but it lacks the ananda, the bliss of loving relationships. And so it said, our acharyas tell us that the soul, even once they attain the Brahmajyoti, merging into the impersonal effulgence, they eventually come back into the world because they are seeking that relish, that ananda of loving relationships, that joy that comes. And so we see here today in these verses what it might look like to have spiritual relationships, spiritual friendships with Krishna in the center. Not our race or our wealth or our social class in the center, but our relationship with Krishna in the center. So let us see again from that lens. Sri Sukadeva Goswami said his heart softened by feelings of intimate sympathy. Vasudeva wept. His eyes brimmed with tears as he remembered the friendship Nanda had shown to him. And on his part, Nanda was full of affection for his friend, Vasudeva. So around when Krishna is in the center, again, tipping our hat to Mother Amila, there's no longer this conception of I and my. It's my country or my family, my friends. It's Krishna is the source of everything. He's the proprietor of everything. He's a friend to everyone. And so when we see that, we also can connect with Krishna, we can connect with others with that sentiment in the core. And then, we could see even here how the relationship between Vasudeva and Nanda could have every material reason to stop. If envy were present in either of their hearts, Vasudeva could be envious of Nanda Maharaj. Oh, you were so fortunate that you got to see Krishna's childhood pastimes. We had to take him out of the city to protect him from Kamsa, and we got to miss these most relishable, most wondrous childhood pastimes of Krishna. You were so fortunate. You could be envious like this, and you could hold resentment to Nanda Maharaj, and that could break the relationship. And Nanda Maharaj could be envious of Vasudeva. You got Krishna for so long. We are living in Vrindavan in separation. We only had him for the first 11 years, and now for so many decades, to my understanding, you are having this association with Krishna. And we are dying to have them back. As we see, Nanda Maharaj does have this strong desire to bring Krishna back, but there's no envy. Which is why it took 3 months for Nanda Maharaj to finally express his heart that if we don't have Krishna, we are going to die. We will die. But this 3 months of indecisiveness, because he did not want to break the heart of Vasudeva. This is the heart of a Vaishnava. And although and it's his selfless desire at that, we have this selfless desire to bring Krishna back to Vrindavan. Still, he knew that this desire could hurt the heart of Vasudeva. And so this indecisiveness goes for 3 months. And through these glimpses in the Shastra, we get to relish, we get to get a glimpse of the rasa, the nectar that flows between these characters, because the love that they are exhibiting is not something that we actually have a reference for in this world. We can only use these terms like friendship to try to get some idea, but it's when we really open these moments and drink the nectar do we start to catch the aroma, catch the flavor, get a splash of what these loving relationships are like, the depth of which that they go. We may have an understanding of what a drop of water feels like, but not to be submerged in an ocean. And really, my friends, in this Srimad Bhagavatam is just ocean after ocean of these deep feelings of spiritual relationships. And so when we open up from that perspective, we really get to submerge ourselves, and by association with them through the medium of Shravanam, through the medium of hearing, do we get to feel the nourishment in these loving relationships, which gives us the impetus, the desire to go and associate with these personalities, to join in these communities. Because it is, again, the nature of the soul to develop these loving relationships, which is why whenever we see in this world some loving exchange, it attracts our heart, and then we want to become a part of that relationship. Which is why we have so many relationships in this world. When we see a community full of people who are loving and respecting and treating each other with such kindness, we realize like, wow, this is a beautiful place. I want to become a part of this community. And so our spiritual centers are meant to also be a replica of that, where we are respecting and sharing this love amongst each other. And when those loving relationships are cultivated, it attracts the soul. And what is it attracting them to? It's attracting them to Krishna, because Krishna is at the center of all of our relationships. Krishna is at the center of our dealings. Krishna is at the center of our topics. Krishna is at the source of our inspiration. Krishna is our motivation. Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Hey. And so, when we read these pastimes, we see to what degree Krishna is at the center of those relationships, and that naturally, gradually starts to cultivate the loyam, or the strong desire to go and associate with these people, just like when we're associated to a community, when we're attracted to the Bhakti Center or to other spiritual communities. Similarly, we become attracted to associate with these personalities in a spiritual way. And this is the most valuable of things. And so like this, friendship is an extremely valuable resource. And it's not that we neglect them, but we bring them to Krishna. We bring the relationship to Krishna. I can see that throughout my life, the relationships that I've held most dear and have lasted the longest and had the most depth are the ones that had some kind of spiritual inclination towards them. Even growing up, I realized, thinking in preparation for this class, that my friendships that have any lasting up to this point of my life, having taken to the process of Bhakti Yoga, the only ones that still have any presence are the ones that had some spiritual essence connected to them. and where I can still express that spiritual nature. This is the organic nature of the soul. Wherever there's spirit, spirit means it lasts. And so thus that relationship lasts. And so how much more so my spiritual relationships, how much more deeply those relationships went, because they're not on the platform of the body, mind, or intelligence, or the ego. How much more deeply they go because they are centered around the soul, centered around seeing each other as souls, as seeing each other as servants of Krishna, and in sharing Krishna with one another. And so we can see, to conclude, come full circle, the wonderful, the beautiful, divine example of Srila Prabhupada with his transcendental relationships in the spiritual world on this earth in Vrindavan. And so we treat Pandit Samadarshana, we treat every living entity as though they are, as they are connected to Krishna. We can also develop that relationship or remember that Krishna is also our friend, and he's also the friend of every living entity. Bhuktaram yagatapasa sarvalokasu, sarvalokam suridam sarvabhutaram gyatam shantiranchite, that he is the proprietor, he's the well-wisher, but he's the friend of every living entity. He is our friend, as the cornerstone of our transcendental relationships. And so when we cultivate those relationships, we can have beautiful, loving exchanges amongst the devotees. And just like Krishna has so many of his relationships with Madhu Mangal and Subal and Sridham, they also have these wonderful relationships amongst each other. They serve together for the purpose of pleasing Krishna, purpose of bringing happiness to each other. And what's the greatest happiness? Giving Krishna. So we see this transcendental anxiety that Nanda Maharaj is under, because how can he take Krishna away from Vasudeva? He wants to give Krishna, but he's also needing Krishna himself, and he's also needing to bring it back to the other residents of Vrindavan who are dying in the ecstasy of separation. And so like this back and forth goes 3 months. How much of a loving relationship where we may have experienced maybe an hour goes by where it's like, oh, I really got to go, but we're in such a nice conversation. Oh, and then we get back into the conversation again. And it goes for another hour. And then it goes, oh, so okay, now we should go. And, we experience that rust maybe to that level, but the rust in this instance is that, okay, I'll go in the morning. Morning comes. I'll leave. Okay, we're about to leave. Oh, but then we keep exchanging. We keep going and having these loving exchanges. And no, just stay a little bit longer. And why don't I just stay for lunch? And we'll make this preparations. Oh, I should. Okay, I'll stay. And then it goes to the afternoon again. It's okay. Well, I'll just leave tomorrow. I'll see tomorrow. Then tomorrow comes. It's like, okay. And it just goes on. This loving exchange goes on for 3 months. We ever experienced where maybe we get for a few minutes extra, an hour extra, maybe a day extra. Oh, just stay the night. It's so late. We've just been talking, stay the night. But 3 months. And this is the expression of the spiritual world in these loving relationships. So like this, I was hoping maybe we could point out some other examples of loving relationships amongst the devotees. I know we are at time, so maybe I'll just list off a few. There is the relationship between Krishna and Arjuna. There's that friendship. The wonderful example of the friendship between Haridas Thakur and Sri Advaita Acharya, and how with Krishna being at the center of the relationships, they relish the ecstasy of Krishna consciousness, roaring in bliss, chanting and reading together. Vishvarup, Sri Chaitanya's elder brother, would spend the whole day associated with the Vaishnavas in this deep loving friendship and relationship. And the devotees were attached to him and he was attached to the devotees. And so when he took sannyas, they were weeping and they were crying. It's not that we do not have friendships. It's not that we don't have relationships. We have the deepest of relationships because Krishna is in the center. And we're relishing their association and their good qualities and their presence, their Krishna consciousness. And because Krishna is in their consciousness, they are also the most attractive people, and it's like associating with Krishna, which is why we see throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam that when literally the divine themselves is asking, what boon can I offer you? We see time and time again, they are simply saying, I just wish for the association with your devotees, because it is like associating with yourself. And we immerse in that sangha, that association. So like this Vishvarup was very dear to the devotees, and when he took sannyas, they were weeping in separation. And we can see Nityananda Prabhu and Sri Chaitanya Prabhu themselves, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that when they first met for the first time, it's described as rivers of tears were flowing. That there was like their reconnecting was an unlimited festival of ecstasy. That no one can understand the depth of their friendship, their relationship, their brotherhood. And so like this, there's so many examples. Krishna and Sudama, yeah. And what to speak about Madhu Mangal and Sridham and so many relationships like this amongst the devotees. Up till today, where we see the most heartwarming instances of leaders in our society is when they just... There's one lecture I'm remembering where Rana Swami was speaking on a pandal with hundreds of thousands of people. And he saw Naranjana Swami. And he stops the lecture and gets up and walks off and pays obeisances and the embrace and the exchange garlands and they talk for a few minutes. Meanwhile, thousands of people are it's just, this is the depth of spiritual relationship, is the importance of spiritual relationships. It is the beauty of spiritual relationships centered around Krishna. And so we can see that all the way from instances with Krishna directly, Krishna's associates, all the way to contemporary times in Lord Chaitanya, examples of our acharyas like Srila Prabhupada, and to our contemporary leaders today, and even amongst ourselves, the depth of the relationships. Oh yeah, I just saw the message that Bhakti Tirtha Swami and Radhanath Swami, they're, I mean, fantastic. Stories and stories and stories. Fantastic, beautiful example of friendship in Krishna consciousness, to where they are present even at the time of death. And that relationship is liberating. Those spiritual relationships are liberating. They bring us closer to Krishna. They help us attain the goal of life. So with that, it's 7:10, so I'll go ahead and stop there. There's always so much to say, but thank you all for allowing me to, at my level best, try to offer something that is nourishing for Krishna consciousness. Thank you for adding these notes. I'd like to open the floor to maybe any other comments or examples of relationships in spiritual life, or any questions or comments. Thank you so much, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Manohara Prabhu. A quick takeaway that I'd like to share. It's an interesting point how in the association of the devotees, we relish their Krishna consciousness, right? That's a very interesting angle, that we relish their consciousness, we relish their surrender, their connection to Krishna. Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah, it came to me as we were speaking because one of the things that are attractive about Krishna is because he has, as Nectar of Devotion lists, he has all of these 64 qualities in full. His kindness, his humility, his tolerance, his compassion. He has all of these in full. And the soul, in its pure state, has many of these qualities, and they're also perfect. And so when the soul is connected with Krishna, the light of the soul's qualities, of Krishna's qualities, emanates perfectly throughout them. And so it's the qualities, the objective qualities of the pure devotee, or of the soul, when it comes through, the qualities of their humility and their compassion and their love and their affection, is those qualities that come through, and it attracts us. And so that's why we see so many examples with Srila Prabhupada, when so many people did not even have any idea of Krishna, but they were so much attracted to Prabhupada. Because Krishna's qualities of humility and passion, compassion and tolerance and love was emanating perfectly through him, the natural quality of the soul. And so it's like we're attracted to their consciousness. the devotee's consciousness. So much so when Krishna is literally coming through them. So, yeah.
Nice. Thank you for the elaboration. Yeah, there's nothing like being in the association of somebody who's surrendered. Speaking of which, Bhima Prabhu has his hand up. Bhima Prabhu.
Also noting this is why we like to be in your association, Nanda Bihari Prabhu. Those who surrendered.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
Haribol.
Anybody hear me?
Yes, Prabhu.
I actually lowered my hand because Manohara, you covered exactly the reason why being in the association of Krishna conscious devotees is so rapt. We we enjoy the qualities that devotees imbue by virtue of their being close to Krishna, and that is, of course, that uh, the qualities, the 64 qualities, or the 26 qualities of a devotee. First and foremost, humility, and all the way to having a grand sense of humor, or as Prabhupada called it, jolliness. When I was with Radhanath Maharaj, I knew the philosophy was the real thing. I had studied philosophy in college, and of course, there was no way around what Prabhupada was speaking in the Bhagavad Gita. I knew that the gig was up, that I no longer could shoulder fake my way around what I was being taught. When I was staying with Maharaj back in the early 80s, I so didn't want to become a devotee because they were asking me to give up everything I wanted to pursue. But for the life of me, I couldn't get over the fact that Maharaj was my friend, and that his qualities, which I had a keen eye out for because I was looking for any excuse to escape, his qualities would overwhelm me with confidence, would overwhelm me with, I would become very endeared to the things he did, how he acted. This is why it is so important that we always understand that the 26 qualities of a devotee, and the loving nature of a devotee, that's the most important quality. Krishna has this overwhelming, always forgiving, for millennia after millennia, forgiving nature towards us. And so Radhanath Maharaj had a very forgiving nature towards me, no matter how much I challenged. And I think that we should always remember how special the devotees are, and how special we should try ourselves to be, in reference to being that window, that via media to Krishna. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you for sharing. Yes, I also experienced. I'm still progressing, so I'm still needing all your friendship. So please, I beg you. But especially in the first moments of of approaching Krishna consciousness for Bhakti Yoga, it was those friendships that really solidified my faith. When it was like, okay, these things are nice, this philosophy is nice, and the prasadam is also obviously nice, and this is nice, and that's nice. But what is it really that's like keeping me firm right now? How do I really know deeply that this is the path that I'd like to live the rest of my life? And I was really surprised to see that what boiled down was like this relationship, this friendship, with someone who gave me the space, gave me the time, connected with my heart, and just flowed compassion into me. That can't come from anything else. That can't come from any other source. This has to come from a divine source. This has to come from Krishna. And so I remember thinking that, and I remember that friendship really holding me into Krishna consciousness. And we hear so many examples like Jayananda. How many people ask, like, what do you do to preach? He's like, I don't preach, I just make friends. And he would develop those relationships, and it inspires so many devotees to really take up to Krishna consciousness. So it's a note of just how potent just becoming a friend to others is and sharing Krishna in that medium. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Temple room, we heard you clearing your throat to glorify Krishna. Adipurusha Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, what a superlative class and subject matter, because the material world is a very lonely place. We're separated from each other, and we're competing with each other. And that this is a perverted, this is a disease condition. And you hear about these incredible loving relationships. Prabhu mentioned in the class, we can't just collect friends. Because we're lonely, we want to have a friend, but you can't have a person. But we can be a friend to everyone. We're in the mode of like giving, rather than trying to possess and control someone else. Then it's unlimited. And sometimes we just think, well, there's everybody, and then there's my special friend. And even in the Catholic monasteries and convents, they warn about that. Don't think, even though, someone may be able to be manifesting a more solid and obvious loving exchange with you. It says that a person, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatmana Sochatina Kanchadi Sama Savesha Bhuteshu, if we're really on the spiritual platform, we're equally disposed toward everyone. So it's a paradox that we may feel closer to someone, but actually, if we're genuinely advanced, we've seen Prabhupada, Radhanath Swami, how they treat even someone. When Maharaj comes here, I'm like the most ridiculous, peripheral, insignificant, mistake-filled, foolish, fallen person. He comes and he throws himself over my body when I'm sitting in the temple room and gives me this embrace that's just like I'm swallowed up in his kindness. So there was one story, oh gosh, really close here. In college, I had a friend, Angela, and her boyfriend wanted to go to see the Dalai Lama and do a documentary film. The Dalai Lama fled from and went across the Himalayas to India. So he went there to India to see the Dalai Lama at the Dharmshala, and he had to wait. He had a 3-month visa. He had a 3-month visa to India, and on the last day of his visa, he finally got at the head of the line and got to go in to see the Dalai Lama, right? So there's guards, and he goes in, and then he goes up the stairs, and then there's guards, and then he goes in, and there's this, they all wear that purple and gold dhoti, and so there's this monk holding the door open. So he just walks past this guy holding the door open. This is some peon. This is an insignificant person. And he sees another door, so he goes through that door, and he's outside. The monk holding the door open was the Dalai Lama. And he just walked right by him as if he was nothing. He never got to do the interview. He was so fried, It's just like walked right by the guy. So we tend to do like that. We tend to minimize. But Krishna loves everyone. And an advanced person doesn't think anyone is insignificant. Radhanath Swami was at this yoga studio giving a class. And after the class, he actually works the crowd and talks to every single person. And then it got to be, Donna Ganesham was telling us, it got to be like 3:00 in the morning. The program had been over for hours, and everyone left. And there were some little Mexican cleaning girls came in to clean the studio. So Mara sat down and was talking to them too. So it's just there for everyone, and that's an interesting way to live. Because underneath everything, everybody loves everybody. All glory to Srila Prabhupada, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Manohara Prabhu. You are a true Brahmana. You ended on time, right on time. And you look clean. So 2 boxes matched. Check. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Okay, darshan time. We can see Krishna Das' whole lineage. Adoksha Hare Krishna.
Thank you for speaking to those guests that came to the temple yesterday. They were remarking about reaching
I only wish to have my consciousness purified because the words emanating from the lungs are natural to the lotus feet, reflection of fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes, fills my soul with infinite. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From ecstatic greatness, by ignorance is destroyed. Vedic scriptures see this character. From spiritual master of the ocean, who sits suspended before the Lord, master of the Buddha. Alas, so please be merciful unto us, the users of the
Jai Srila Prabhupada, Hare Krishna. Welcome to the Afterglow. Nice seeing you all, dear devotees. Thank you. We feel uplifted in your association. Would anyone like to share a reflection? Something that stuck out to you that you'd like to reflect back? Who feels the most introverted? How about Sam, Saurabh Sam Shah? How about you? Would you like to share something that is in line with Guru Sadhu and Shastra? Unmute, unmute, unmute.
Hare Krishna. I just want to say Hare Krishna to everyone. You guys are awesome at the Bhakti Center. I'm from California. Found my way. I've been watching the kirtans and so forth. So thank you. Thank you for everything you guys do. And I look forward to learning.
Thank you, Prabhu.
And
Thank
I
you.
do have a common love, immense love for Krishna and Govinda. So I think that's what Swamiji or devotee was hinting at. So I can relate and so Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, love is intense. It's not 50%, 30%. Love is full heart, full 100%.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, Krishna. Would anyone like to speak? Please, dear devotees, please. Krishna Chandra Prabhu. With that voice, you have to speak.
Oh, yes. It is with great voice comes great responsibility. But now I'm not saying I do have a great voice, but generally speaking. Anyway, we I think there was a point in the lecture where Manohara Prabhu was talking about the fleeting nature of material relationships, and we know the truth. We study Bhagavad Gita. We're in the association of good, wonderful devotees, but still we we can get entangled very easily, and we can have our hearts broken. We can we can break hearts ourselves. But I think ultimately, when this happens, we ultimately do need to take shelter of Krishna. We need to find those things which we love most about Krishna. Sometimes we have to just go through a phase of exploration to see, why are we with the devotees? What really draws us here? And once we can kind of pursue Krishna with abandon, then he will protect us, even from being brokenhearted in this material world. And I do speak from experience. I went through this kind of experience myself, and I find that by drawing close to Krishna and doing service and just finding the service and aspects of Krishna consciousness that resonate most with you, it protects you so much. It doesn't eliminate it completely, because there is that component of karma that brought us to that situation in the first place, but it mitigates it in a very, very significant way. Thanks.
Thank you, Krishna Chandra Prabhu. So therefore, do not isolate yourself, dear devotees. Do not isolate yourself. Always throw yourself in the association with the devotees. And then everything will be mitigated. And everything will become auspicious. Karma still stands, but all those events that are coming from karma will become auspicious. Hare Krishna. Adipusha Prabhu. You have something to add?
Well, scripture says, that beyond this dimension that we see in our material experience, there's another dimension of existence. There's another quality of life. There's another world. And the atmosphere there and the relationships there are so much different. There's real love, there's harmony, there's not envy, competition, or not material competition. So it's nice to know that we hear about these extraordinary loving relationships in the stories, and they're very attractive, and we can actually enter into that quality of life by Krishna's grace, by the grace of the spiritual master. Surrendering to Krishna, everything else is accomplished. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai, thank you very much, Adipusha Prabhu. Okay, Isaiah, how are you? Yes, you. Would you like to say Hare Krishna, Isaiah? If Isaiah doesn't say Hare Krishna, then Annabelle will say Hare Krishna. Annabelle, you ready? Annabelle, what are you working on? What's your latest project? Karen, come to the rescue. Unmute them, please.
Could you flip the camera? What do you want? Oh, this you've got this funny focus on. I don't know how to change that.
Yeah, we can hear you. There's no Akashvani anymore.
What? I can't hear.
Okay, got it.
Can I hold it for you?
Yeah.
Whoops.
Oh, beautiful. I love it.
All nervously.
It's upside down, Mama.
Jai Jagannath. How wonderful.
She's better than
Did you draw it yourself, Annabelle? Did Karen help you? Did Isaiah distract you? Yes, a little bit. Okay. Annabelle, why don't you say Hare Krishna? Why don't you say Hare Krishna to finish the yajna today, please?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank
Nice.
you for today. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Have a wonderful Saturday. Come again tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Manohara, thank you. Thank you for class.